everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the Surge funding panel today. We have some very diverse panelists here to talk about funding for young entrepreneurs, and we're excited they joined us, and we're really excited you joined us. So thanks again for making it out. I just wanted to make you familiar with Surge if you're not a student here or you don't have too much information yet about us. We're the entrepreneurship connection for the college, and we're here for any student or alumni of Mohawk College that is looking for some help with their small business or their entrepreneurial venture. So if that's something you're working on right now and you need some help, please come see us and check out our website for the programming and events that we run, because we try to run, like this funding panel, other events that are going to help you as you pursue this venture of yours. So our website is mohawkcollege.ca/surge, and you can email us, surge@mohawkcollege.ca. And I wanted to mention an upcoming event that might be of interest to you. It's our Startup Career Fair. We ran it last year. It's an awesome event. We get to showcase a ton of great startups that are in Hamilton, and they're looking to hire. And so it's a great chance for you to come out and see who's in the startup scene right now, talk to them if you're looking to start a startup, or maybe you want to get hired. So check that out. It's an event that's on our website right now, and you can register for it. Melanie's also going to talk about another Surge event coming up, and we're going to talk about that. It's our Surge Pitch Competition.
Thanks, Karen. So there is a little bit of noise in the background, but that's okay. We're trying out this new venue, so we'll ask the judges to speak nice and clearly into the mics when they're answering questions. So welcome. And on the note of funding and money, who would like to win a little bit of money to go towards their business? Yeah, of course. So we are actually going to hold our third annual Surge Pitch It to Win It competition. So that's going to be held on March 30th. Now, if you're not pitching, that's okay. We still need you there in spirit, in body, to cheer on some of the people that you might know that are running, or just to come and experience what that might be. Top prize is $2,500. Second prize is $1,500, and third prize is $500. So there is some serious cash to be won there for sure. We have great judges coming out from the community, very, very good judges that ask some tough questions to make sure that if you are awarded that money, that you actually deserve it. So we're happy about that. So again, you have to, if you are interested, you have to register and fill out an application. But if you don't want to pitch, you can just come out and watch again. So you can find all those details at mohawkcollege.ca/surge pitch comp. Okay, so Surge Pitch Comp is really the buzzword. All right, so before we get started and we pass it over to our wonderful judges, I just want to thank everybody who's attended here today, whether you are coming to get the information or whether you're here to help. We can't exist without you, so thanks to the judges, those helping and those attending today. So we're gonna do a draw, as promised, for some one cards. It's all about money today, right? So who wants to win some one cards? So we're gonna draw 4 names quickly so we can get the show on the road. So we have Melissa Flushman. She here? There she is. Taha Sadiq. Congratulations. Adam Van Stralen. Lucky. We got some horseshoes, I think, right? Yes. And Nicholson Christmas. Hey, congratulations to all 4 of you. So enjoy your time, and if you have any questions, please see somebody with a Surge button at the back at any point, and feel free to reach out to us. And I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Johnson, who is going to moderate. She's a big part of Surge as well, and yeah, come on up.
Thank you. Oh, Melanie's a lot taller than me. There we go. Thank you so much for joining us today at our funding panel. I'm Andrea Johnson. I work here at the college with IdeaWorks, which is our Applied Research and Innovation Department. And it's my pleasure to moderate this panel and to help guide you through a series of questions that I have for the panelists, and then also at the end to take the opportunity for some questions from you, either questions you might have to benefit your dreams as an entrepreneur, or just questions you might have for some of your friends, some of your colleagues, anything. So from right to left, it's my pleasure to welcome Rob Belcher from the City of Hamilton Small Business Enterprise Center. Yeah. Sarah Pick from Futurepreneur. Jillian Sheldon from Ontario Centre of Excellence, which is also a funder of the OSEA program, which funds all of Surge's activities. And then finally, Robert Dorinzi from First Ontario Credit Union. Thank you all for joining us. So we're going to start by taking just a few minutes for each of our panelists to introduce themselves in a bit more detail and give you an overview of some of the programs that they have, that they offer, that can help entrepreneurs in terms of starting their businesses, developing prototypes, just getting themselves ready. So you'll see when we go through our panelists that we've made a very strategic decision to have the panelists introduce themselves in terms of where you would be at in terms of accessing their services, either an early stage all the way to a more mature entrepreneur. So I'll turn it over to Rob so he can introduce the City of Hamilton's opportunities.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you today, and I want to say thank you to Andrea and Melanie and Karen for organizing this event. So I'm Rob Belcher. I work at the City of Hamilton Small Business Enterprise Center. Some of you have probably heard of us, and some of you maybe haven't. So just quickly, has anybody ever been to our office before, downtown City of Hamilton? Okay, a little more than I expected. That's great. Thanks, guys. So what we are is a place for people who are thinking of starting a small business or are already running a small business to come for a little bit of help and guidance and support. We collaborate with great people like Sarah and Jillian and Rob on the panel, and Serge as well, and many others in the organization with the common, or in the community, with the common goal of helping startups to succeed. So people can come to us for help with all the steps to starting a business, helping with a business plan, a marketing plan, figuring out financing, rules and regulations, and items along those lines. We have some very specific training programs and some access to professionals like legal, marketing, accounting, and insurance. And then we also have some funding programs, which we'll talk a little bit about right now too. One of which is called Summer Company, and it's for students. It's for students who wish to start a business while they're off for the summer. So school ends in April, you can get a grant and get some training and develop your business through that program. There's a grant of $3,000, and it's intended to help you launch a full-time summer business. And the idea at the end of the summer is you've learned, you've made some money, and then you can go back to school in the fall. And many of the students keep running their businesses when they go back to school in the fall. So that is one key piece of eligibility we can talk about a little bit later, is that you do have to be a student planning to return to school. When you're done school, there's another program called Starter Company, which is similar. It offers training, mentoring, networking opportunities, and a grant of up to $5,000. So far in the past 2 years, we've helped 80 businesses who have received grants, and we've had close to 400 people come through and participate in the training. So it's a very inclusive, open, busy office, and often will be your first step to thinking about your idea, talking with myself or one of the other consultants in the office to get some feedback on your idea and guidance on what next steps to take. So look forward to answering some of your questions about those programs later. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Robert. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah from Futurepreneur to give you a bit more of a sense of how Futurepreneur can help you.
Awesome. So thanks for having me here as well today, and it's great to see so many faces in the crowd. Just to start off, how many people have actually heard of Futurepreneur already in the past in some capacity? Okay, a few people. Awesome. So what we do is help young entrepreneurs who are looking to start their businesses, much like everyone here today on the panel. So we're a nationwide organization. We're not-profit. And we support 18 to 39-year-olds by providing business support tools, financing, and mentorship to help you get started. So we kind of help at a few different stages of development. So if you're kind of at that ideation stage, we work really closely with Rob and his team at the Hamilton Small Business Center to kind of guide you through the early stages of planning out your business. The tools that we offer at that stage, a lot of them are much more virtual. So one really great tool if you're starting to think out your idea and kind of where to take it and how it's going to evolve, one tool that we have is our business plan writer. So it's a free resource. It's on our website. Anyone can use it regardless of whether or not you're planning to apply for the financing portion of our program. And it's just a really interactive tool to get you through that business plan writing stage. So it gives you helpful examples. It kind of prompts you through the different components of the plan. It makes you think about things by prompting you with different questions as you go. So if any of you are kind of still at that early stage and maybe planning to check out the Small Business Center to get some tools and resources to get you going, the Business Plan Writer is also another tool you can check out from the Futurepreneurs website. On that resource page, we also have tons of other tools that are useful, like cash flow forecast templates, different crash courses and prezis to get you thinking through marketing, operations, sales, HR. So again, these are very virtual tools, so it's almost like independent learning, but those tools will kind of help supplement anything you're accessing at the Small Business Center. Once you get to a stage where you're thinking, okay, I'm looking to really launch this thing full-time within the next 12 months, that's when you would be at a good stage to apply for the financing and mentorship part of our program. So just by a show of hands, how many in the room are either in their last year of studies or already graduated? Okay. So that is one of the criteria to apply for the financing that we offer. So I just wanted to kind of get a gauge of who was in the room. So the financing we offer is up to $45,000 and it's in the form of an unsecured loan. So often with youth, it's difficult to provide that security that a bank might be looking for from you. So we kind of supply financing with the option of an unsecured route, knowing that entrepreneurs who are young maybe don't have those pieces of collateral yet that they're going to secure up against a loan. So they're low interest, collateral free. And with it comes a mentorship component, which is a really nice feature that is paired with the financing. So if you are approved for a loan to help you kickstart that business, we also hand match you with a mentor for 2 years. So essentially through the application process, you'll tell us what it is that you would be looking for from a mentor. So again, marketing expertise, HR, operations, maybe industry knowledge. And then we'd look out within our database of approximately 3,000 volunteer mentors, find someone that's close to your geography that matches up with what you're looking for, match you guys up, and now you've got up to $45,000 to kind of get moving through the launch of your business, but also paired with some mentorship to really help, bring problems, bring opportunities to them, and they can coach you through the process. One other really great feature of our program and the partnerships that we have is that if you decide that the financing is of interest to you, you can actually work with Rob and his team at the Small Business Center through the whole application process. So the alternative is kind of doing it virtually with our virtual team, which works as well. But if you're looking for that local support, hands-on, one-on-one, Rob's got a team set up to work specifically through the Futurepreneur application with entrepreneurs who are looking to do that. So just rounding back on that eligibility criteria, because I know some of you didn't put up your hand as being in your final year of studies. So once you hit that last year of full-time studies or you've graduated, that's when you become eligible for the finances and the mentorship. And a really great path to kind of follow would be maybe, if you're sort of in the earlier stage of your education, checking out Summer Company, flowing into Starter Company, and then flowing into Futurepreneur, and then flowing into these guys, and I'll kind of stop there and hand it over.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, that's a perfect intro for you, Jillian, so I'll let you continue the story.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Gillian Sheldon. I'm one of the business development managers. Sorry, I'm wakening everybody up here at Ontario Centres of Excellence. We're a not-for-profit corporation, and ultimately what we do is we co-fund investment to accelerate innovative products, moving them from research stage to successful commercialisation. How do we do that? It had to be me. We do that through over 45 programs. I'm not going to go into every one of the programs today because you actually do want to go home tonight. So I'll just cover a couple that could potentially help move you and your business forward. The first one we've got is called Smart Start Seed Fund. That is ultimately, thank you. That's ultimately an investment of $30,000 from the Ontario government, but we ask you to match that with $30,000. The criteria to that is you have to be an incorporated business, so you have to be working with the City of Hamilton, go through the registration process, have an idea of what some of your business and market plan is, and really scope that out. It is a very competitive process, so the more you do, working with the OSEA here at Surge, or the City of Hamilton Small Business, or in fact Futurepreneur, the more you do there to understand your market, your product, your potential customers, the more successful your application will be. Ultimately, what we're looking to do there is for you to have a prototype and have that prototype ready to go to market. It's ideal actually if you've got some first sales, but you're looking to scale those sales. As I said, we will give $30,000 for you to go out and engage more customers, travel, go to conferences, maybe hire a salesperson for them to come in and just hit the phones and do a lot of cold calling. Really about creating more customers for you. On top of that, we'll give $7,500 free money for professional development. So again, that's the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Science, investing in you, creating wealth and knowledge to drive the economic prosperity of Ontario forward. That $7,500 is not a loan, it's free money, it is a grant, but there has to be a transfer of knowledge there. So you have to be learning something, whether you're going to entrepreneurship camp or whether you're going to see a lawyer about some patent, again, transfer of knowledge has to be pertinent in there. So you've got that product, you've got it to market, you're wanting to do some more research and some tweaks on that, but you need some people to come in and help you with that. We have another program called Talent Edge, which is to hire either students or recent graduates to come in and work in your company for about 4 to 8 months and really help you research something and move that forward. Once you've got that really harnessed, you've been in business a couple of years, there are more programs going forward, but as I said, I've given you a lot of information in a very short period of time. I will be here afterwards, happy to answer any questions and meet with you further if you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian, and I'll turn it over to Robert to chat a bit about what First Ontario Credit Union has available.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Rob. I represent First Ontario Credit Union on our panel here. I would be the last step on our panel that would come to your funding. So as a young entrepreneur or an entrepreneur in general, you have your idea, you've already put all of the places together, all of the gears are now ready to fire. You would then come to us. We would be there to help you out with your banking needs. That would include bank accounts, credit cards, funding. So in business services, we deal with loans that would be between $25,000 up to about $1.1 million. With that being said, there is no funding too low. We can always handle things at our branch level. Account managers, such as myself, we specialize in the one-off deals. So that would be something that is an idea that is now has a proven track record or is on its way to making a track record. And we can offer that funding, be it a line of credit, be it a term loan or a mortgage on a property. We do secured as well as unsecured lending. And we take in a lot of different criteria that fit each and every individual credit product and facility. With that being said, as a quick background to myself, I lend not only in the Niagara region, also in the Hamilton region, and in all of Southwest Ontario. We specialize in many different industries, so if you do think that you are in a niche market, there is a chance that we would be able to help you there. In addition to that, at the end of this panel, I will be here for about 45 minutes to answer any individual questions that might not be covered at the end of this Q&A session. More importantly than that, I'd just like to leave with you the idea that for First Ontario, because we are a community-based lender, the three things that fit into our criteria is if it is right for our member, right for the credit union, and right for the community, then it's a right fit for us. Without any further ado, I'll bring it back to you.
Thank you very much, Rob. I did want to mention that, again, our panelists will be available after the session for some individual questions. And these also have all brought materials. So those of you that are visual learners that want to get some documents, they all have some information available at the back with Tara. So thank you, all of you, for sharing that great introduction to the services you offer. What I love about this very diverse panel is that they have something for almost everyone. There's an opportunity for every stage of the process. And you know, I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of entrepreneurs, and the number one pain point that they always tell me is money. Funding. They've got a great idea. How do they take it to the next level? How do they get that cash in pocket to hire, to create prototypes, to expand? And this really is the answer to that problem. So we're going to take it into a bit more of an informal Q&A. So I have a series of a few questions for the panelists. So we'll get them each to go through and answer the question, and then I'll turn it over to you. So we'll probably use one of these mics as a bit of a mobile mic. So when the Q&A time comes, please put your hand up. But why don't we start with sort of the questions that I have that are sort of issues that I've noticed that run across all sectors and areas of entrepreneurship initiatives. So please, just whoever wants to answer first, go ahead. But I would love to know if you can describe your dream entrepreneur. So what key pieces would that dream entrepreneur bring to the table when they apply for funding from you? Start with Rob.
Sure. Well, our dream entrepreneur would have a strong credit background, would have a product or a service that they have already done some market research with. They have a pro forma balance sheet, or they already have a balance sheet. They have gone through all of the other steps to get to us now, so they have a comprehensive idea of what they are bringing to market, and now they're ready to take that next step. So I guess the best way to paraphrase that would be our entrepreneur is ready, not only with a plan, but has also been in the market and has that theoretical and practical component.
Anyone else want to chat about their dreams? Sarah?
So for Futurepreneur, the dream entrepreneur would also have good credit. So we do run the credit score of anyone who's applying. And also a strong draft of a business plan. Or if you're at a stage where you don't yet have the business plan, someone that's coachable and is willing to work with us to kind of take some feedback and go through the motions of building a plan with us, because we do sort of help the entrepreneur through that process as well. And someone who's coachable from the perspective of mentorship as well. So we are matching you up with a really great business coach when you do go through the program. So we're hoping that entrepreneurs will use that coachable skill, I guess, that you've probably all heard about, to kind of take the feedback that the mentor is actually providing you through the process as well.
So I would just add, with our two programs, they're fairly experiential, and they're designed to give people a chance to get going. But still, an ideal client is somebody who is taking initiative. They're taking steps to start their business. They have a vision for their business, but at the same time are coachable and open to ideas. So they're not waiting for us to tell them what to do. They're doing it anyways, but then we can maybe say, hey, have you thought about doing this or this or this? And they take that under advisement and run with that. So that for us is a dream client. There's because they're grant programs, there is no credit check required, which is a nice difference between a loan and a grant. but again, it's more about attitude and vision and the drive that an entrepreneur has. Having some background experience related to the business helps as well, and certainly getting out there and talking to people in your target market, talking to who your customers might be. Any steps that you're taking like that is very, very helpful when you're coming through our doors, because we're going to suggest that you do those things. And the more you've done already, the faster it'll be for you. So.
I just want to add on to what a couple of panelists were saying here. It's this mic, I tell you. Coachable is a big thing because, again, we're there to help you. We're there to help chaperone you through the process and advise you. If you don't take that advisement into place, we can't help you. The other thing, resourceful. Actually have the capability to go out and find new markets, find these aspects that we're trying to get you involved in. Go and find the resources that support you, like Surge here, the Innovation Factory further down, the people that can really help gather the data and information for you. And another key fact that Rob actually alluded to, if you're going to start up a software engineering business and you're coming from a marketing background, we're going to see a huge gap in the team there. So make sure that you fill those gaps that you see are perceived elements within the team. If not, we'll make sure you do.
Thank you for sharing your perspective on the Dream Entrepreneur. What really just stood out for me is that you all in one shape or form mentioned the idea of being coachable. That's a great lesson whether you're an entrepreneur or even an intrapreneur, someone that's very innovative within your own company, willing to learn from others that have gone down that path before you and willing to apply their advice. Advice doesn't always work. I think we all know that, but there's a lot of strong nuggets of information in every tip that someone gives you, and applying for that is really something that I think all of us here like to see from entrepreneurs. So just moving on to the flip side of, we have your dream entrepreneur. What about some of those moments that kind of aren't ideal? Can you share some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs have made when they've approached you when applying for funding? Just one or two is fine, something we can learn from.
Sure. The one thing that I would always urge is if you have the entrepreneurial attitude, that's fantastic, but just make sure within your group that is in your company, you have someone that has the aptitude. A lot of people have dreams and aspirations, as I do, as well as all of us have, but make sure that people do have that hard skill that is necessary when creating that good or service. A lot of times, especially when people do come to us as a credit union, they have the idea, they have a lot of parts in place, but they're missing those key men. So always having that key personnel, that key experience really, really drives home and solidifies a credit.
My one big bugaboo is when people come and basically say, but I thought you were just going to give me free money. They're not willing to actually listen and take on the advisement, and then when they don't get funded, they then blame me. So I would say just listen and help us advise you through the process.
Some great points already. One that I might add is often I see people who believe that their product or service appeals to everybody. And it really is important to narrow down who your best customer is and design your product around that best customer. I find that when you do that, you can target your marketing much more effectively and successfully as well.
And what I would say that we notice somewhat often is when entrepreneurs kind of skip the planning stage, which sort of incorporates a piece of what everyone's already said here for this part. So you get so excited about your idea that you just kind of jump into it, and then later on you find, this risk has popped up and I don't really know what to do about it, and if I had kind of planned for it, I would have a contingency plan. So sometimes we see entrepreneurs who are applying to our program who've kind of already started their business and they don't really even have a business plan yet, or it doesn't need to necessarily be a business plan, but some kind of plan and some kind of documentation to show what your goals are and where you're headed. So that would be my key point of advice, is make sure you don't skip over the planning stage and put the time needed into it to make it good.
So what we're hearing is a good idea is a foundational building block, but it isn't the only thing that you're going to be pitching. You're going to be pitching a full package, including going back to the business plan that we were talking about earlier. So, we talked a bit, and Jillian did an excellent job of bringing up the idea of free money. This isn't free money. It's money that is there to help you. So, as organizations, what do you expect in return from the entrepreneurs? So you provide them with this package of support and both, to prepare their business for growth, so, some intangible resources, but then you also provide financial resources. So what do you expect in return for giving them those resources and the funding?
Well, when it comes to applying for a larger loan or a line of credit, we do unsecured. However, there's always that ask of putting your skin in the game, having your capital that you're willing to put in. Now, a credit union will work with the entrepreneur, but you have to show us that you are putting your resources on the line as well. With that being said, also having risk mitigation. Every business has risk. That's just the fact of doing business. It comes with the territory. Having outlined that those are risks and how you plan to mitigate them, and if it falls in line with what a professional, one of those on the panelists, believe that would also be those mitigating factors, that really drives that home. So I would have to say that having some capital into the game or some sort of tangible resource that you're willing to put in to make your business succeed, and then we will finish the rest of that job.
I think Rob made an excellent point. Again, you're dealing with government funding, so we want you to be engaged. We co-invest, so it's a one-to-one match. You put in 30k, we put in 30k, so you've already got skin in the game there because you're playing with 30k of your own money. But the other thing, because we are government funding, there's a little word called metrics that we will be coming back to you once your project's finished, and you have to report on what sales you made, what new customers you generated, how many events you went to, if you've created any new jobs. So again, that's really our biggest. We will come back to you and ask, what did you do with this money and what did you achieve?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and echo both of those comments. So skin in the game. For a portion of the loan that we offer, there's no owner's investment required. For the additional portion of our loan, there is. So there's kind of a couple different options. However, it always looks better to us when we can see that the entrepreneur has put something into the company, whether it be investment in cash, investment in assets, time, investment in terms of their time. We want to see that you're very keen about what you're doing. And from a metrics and reporting perspective, we want to be able to see that you're doing everything you can to make your business successful. Starting a business is difficult. I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure you guys have heard different failure rates that are out there. Can't really name them off the top of my head, but it's hard, right? It's common that businesses will fail in the first few years. So we at Futurepreneur want to see you guys do everything possible to kind of make that business successful, get over the hurdles that you're facing. The mentorship that we kind of bring into it will definitely help with that, but you guys need to take it, you need to be accountable for what you're doing and the fact that you have money now to do it, and just doing everything possible to kind of get there where you want to be and be successful.
I think it's safe to say that just about any funding program you go to, a common element is that you need to be invested into the business yourself. Starter company at our office is similar, where if you were asking for $5,000, the province would ask you to show, our office would ask you to show that you're putting in $1,250, or that you're able to invest it, or that you already have invested in some way in the business. For the other program, Summer Company, that isn't a requirement. But both programs also, there's a big time commitment. There's quite a bit of training that we provide up front, which is mandatory, and then there's ongoing mentoring after you start the business. So for Summer Company, it's a 4-month commitment, basically from May through August, and for Starter Company, it's closer to an 8-month commitment where you are spending time with our office as you develop and grow your business. Most of your time is spent out in the field growing your business, but there is a requirement a few hours a month to be at our office for ongoing training and support and development, which I think is a good thing. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk one last question for me before I open it up to a question from the audience. Entrepreneurs, the general rule of thumb is fail fast. So if an entrepreneur applies for funding from any of your organizations and they're unsuccessful, what should they do next?
Well, I think that a rule that I've always held very dear with myself is that failure is success. Everyone has had that before where they have met roadblocks. The difference is if you take it as a lesson and learn to find your way around those issues that you've had and now rectify them. For instance, in my endeavors in commercial lending, I have met people that have failed time and time again. And every time they come back to the drawing board, back to the platform, they have built a better mousetrap. They have learned the issues that they've had before and how to get around those. So I would say that perseverance is important. From a strict lending perspective, showing that you're not making the mistakes is one thing. Including others that are experts that you have found on your own to come in and help you in that business really drives home that you are preparing yourself for success.
So with the Smart Start Seed Fund, you get to apply twice. So you can apply once. If that application fails, then you can reapply. But I would work with you to make sure that that application is as strong as possible going forward in the first round, and then work with you based on the feedback from the reviewers to make that application as strong as possible for that final tranche. If you're still not successful in that, I'm still going to support you and look for other funding opportunities, preferably through the panel here, and really help you as much as I can to move that business forward. So in my world, there's no such thing as failure, there's just new opportunities.
I think in general, I'd echo Rob's points about, failure sometimes happens. It's part of the learning process. And I've had the opportunity to observe a lot of businesses get started over the years, and sometimes from the outside it looks like a business is an overnight success, but I guarantee they've had a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years to get to that point. And if you hear about their trials and tribulations and some of the negative experiences they've had, it might surprise a lot of people in the public. So I think whether it's total failure and the business closes and you go back to the drawing board, or a series of small failures in the business that you learn from, it's to be expected. And fail fast, I think, is a good expression for just figuring it out. And you try something and it doesn't work, get on to the next thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys foresee obstacles are kind of coming your way, like through our program with the mentorship, we're always encouraging you to stay in constant contact with that mentor. That's somebody that's going to help you kind of maybe get over those hurdles and avoid those obstacles and reduce the risk of potentially failing. If you're not going through the Futurepreneur program, find a mentor anyways. So kind of echoing what Rob said about strategic partners and people on your team. Mentors can take lots of shapes and forms. It can be a professor, it can be a colleague, it can be another student that you work alongside with in your class, but somebody that can provide you insight that maybe you're not realizing on your own. So tap into as much mentorship, informal or formal, as you can, because those are the ways that you'll learn as you're growing your business and you're growing your idea, and then that will hopefully reduce some of the risk, at least, of potentially failing in the future.
Thank you very much. And of course, Surge can also help you find a mentor even before you approach any external program. So I wanted to take this time to open up the floor to any questions that you may have. I believe this mic comes off. We'll take one of those for a remote mics. Does anyone have any questions for our panelists?
Hi there. My name is Ubaldo, and thank you for being here. We really value what you bring into the table. One of the questions I want to ask you is more of a general question. I know that you probably provide a various number of supporting packages to numerous different types of businesses, but have you noticed a certain pattern in the last year or so where most of your packages are aimed to a certain type of business? So if you could just highlight maybe some of the patterns that you might have noticed where people are kind of approaching you to get these packages. Thank you.
So with our program, we're industry agnostic, so we see everything from tech to service to brick and mortar. I would say here in Hamilton, due to the renaissance that's kind of going on, we're seeing a lot more brick and mortar. You guys probably have noticed out there new cool restaurants, cafes, maybe some retail shops. So we're in this region, at least, we're definitely seeing a lot of that. Places like Hamilton, as well as Kitchener-Waterloo and Toronto, but that's not my region, so I'm less familiar with it. But Hamilton and Kitchener-Waterloo are tech hubs as well. So we find that there's a lot of tech going on. Through our program, we kind of play in that field once that company is out of the research and development stage, so getting closer to market launch. But yeah, we definitely see like a combination of those, and it really kind of depends on the city that you're living or working in. So as you're thinking about your idea and what it is that you're doing, maybe think about the city that you're planning to launch within as well, and does that make sense with what's going on with the economy, I guess.
I would say at the Small Business Enterprise Center, we're seeing a fairly healthy mix across all sectors. Primarily, though, traditional businesses, construction, retail, health professionals, service-based businesses, retail businesses, a lot of restaurants, food businesses. And we have a close relationship with an organization here in town that you guys should be familiar with called Innovation Factory, and they offer similar services to the Enterprise Center, and they tend to deal with businesses on the tech side of things, commercializing a new product. So often we're referring to each other just to make sure that there's no wrong door, so to speak. No matter who you approach, we'll help you find the right person to talk to. So.
I'm paranoid about this mic now. Again, we are sector agnostic, but I would say some of the biggest trends I see being in the tech-based community is robotics, 3D manufacturing, speaks very much to Mohawk's strengths here, but really around, you know, the more advanced manufacturing, putting a brain behind the traditional manufacturing piece, as well as healthcare technologies. So that's the ones that have really started to, I would say, create more momentum, especially within Hamilton area, because you are speaking to the community needs and the expertise that's here at that point. But certainly there is a fruition of a lot more, you know, more traditional based companies. But have anybody here been down to the Forge? If you've not been down to the Forge at McMaster Innovation Park, I would recommend you go down and have a look, because again, those are the young tech-based companies within the Hamilton community. So have a look at what's down there. You've got healthcare companies, you've got manufacturing, you've got a mobile auto company, a whole range of the ones right here in your community. So go and have a look and start to learn from them.
So just to kind of explain on top of all of that, we've noticed there's a big generational swing. So there's been a lot of pre-existing companies that now the younger generation is taking ownership of, and they're innovating on it. So they're taking an already existing company and they're changing it. Or they're taking an already existing idea and changing that. One of the biggest ones that I've noticed is collaborative space. collaborative space has become very prevalent here in Hamilton, as well it is starting to in Niagara and moving over into Southwest Ontario. So as far as I've noticed a difference in, let's say, sectors, I would say definitely the art sector is taking on a larger change. The revolutionization of the hospitality industry, very niche restaurants have been obviously popping up, as we've noticed here in Hamilton. But overall, as a blanket statement, I would say that the new generation of entrepreneurs are taking pre-existing companies and adding that innovation. They are adding that value added. Does that answer your question?
If I can just add on a bit to that, I definitely echo what they say. There are trends. There's trends linked to what we're doing here at Mohawk. So you end up being able to access at the college level R&D support for prototyping, especially using 3D printing, additive manufacturing, digital health support. So there's a lot of little initiatives to support startups. I always say if you're looking for an opportunity, take a look at some of the funding priorities of the government. So healthcare, education, transportation, they're all government funded, and at some point there's going to be a procurement process where you might be able to get in and sell your solution or service to that. They do spend a lot of money on innovative ideas, so that should be something you should be aware of and aligned with. So I think we have another question in the front row.
So for a young entrepreneur who's trying to start into a very oversaturated field of fitness, I was wondering what we could do to make ourselves different than the large companies who are already there and have the money to do the ideas that we're trying to bring to the table. How do we get the funding if we're the small guy who's trying to just outreach outside of the companies like Good Life or any of those larger companies who already have that money?
Okay, so the first thing I would ask you is what makes you different from Good Life? You know, what makes you different? What's your value proposition ahead of your competitors? That's the first question you would get asked if you're going into a crowded market. You know, you really have to either have a niche component of that market that you're going after, or look at what your core market advantage is that will take you ahead of that. Understanding that would be key to breaking into that market.
Yeah. Was your was your concern also around like just competing with those bigger businesses? Yeah. I think Jillian's right. So I think if your concern is about how to compete with bigger businesses, you really have to understand their business very well. You have to, people sometimes compare it to war, where it's strategy and you're comparing what their strategy is and what they're doing really well and what there's always something that they're not doing as well at, and maybe that's the area where you try to excel. And then it's just sitting down with maybe people who have bought from that bigger competitor to say, what do you like? What don't you like? And then chatting with people like us to test those ideas that maybe you have. But I think Jillian really did say the key points, though. It's just trying to find your point of differentiation and your advantage.
I would even take it slightly one step further. If you show it on your business plan, that obviously shows that you have the theoretical background of it. But if you could go out and find interest in the form of pre-sale, so if you could pre-sell memberships, or you could have some sort of tenanted agreement with clientele that state that there is this need, they are willing to pay for it, this is the numeration that they're willing to pay for it, and for how long. Now you've not only said this is a pain point in the market, this is our unique value proposition, but this is also the market that has the demand for us. So it shows both sides of that coin.
So kind of just to add on to that, would, for the research part, would you say literally walking out and going to ask people, shouting out a survey, doing a pre-sale online kind of thing, or just sort of all of the above?
Well, the surveying and more or less going out and asking, that's involved in your market research. That should be in your business plan and strategic business document. When you actually get the, let's say, rubber to the road, so to speak, so when you actually go for those pre-sales, you've already now taken it in from the thought manifestation process. Now you're actually using it in a practical sense. So if you were to come to us, which again, First Ontario would be the end of have, let's say, some potential clientele that's interested in this, you've already demonstrated that you've taken that step. Based on a case-by-case basis, showing that you would have those pre-sales, or at least those intent for pre-sales, would solidify that credit, or at least speak great strength towards it. Does that answer your question? Very good.
Any other questions?
This is for you. How much pre-sales do you need? Like, what's the percentage?
Percentage of pre-sales?
Yeah, like what would be the best?
Well,
You already have a market. You think it's pretty good, and huge interest. So how many people do you need to get memberships?
well, okay, so there's two ways that I would go about this. Obviously, since we're using an arbitrary business model, because, I mean, neither of us have one with us, I would look at how much of a loan you're looking for, so what is the ask, and then I would look at the serviceability and cash flow of that. So as a rule of thumb, on a service-based industry, a credit union would look at somewhere around 1.25 to 1 on a debt-to-service coverage ratio. So what that would mean in layman's terms would be for every dollar of debt that we would give to you, you would be able to bring in $1.25 of revenue to cover that, and then have more for, provisions. So you would go through a break-even analysis that you would have in your strategic document. Based on that, you would be able to show that I need X amount of people to cover my expenses. And then for this proposed amount of income that I would ask from my lender, I would also need X amount of people to fulfill that. So I would say off of pre-sale, if you would be able to get anywhere between 40 to 60% of that, you are in very strong standing.
Just wanted to add for you as well, if you are looking to kind of play around with the numbers a little and see like, okay, if I have this many clients a month or in my first few months, what will that look like? And maybe I'm taking out this dollar amount of a loan. How does that compare? You can check out the Futurepreneur cash flow template that's on the resources page of our website. It's like plug and play. So basically you can plug in, if I predict a couple customers a month in the first few months and then increasing, and I'm taking out $20,000 loan and these are my monthly expenses, it will actually kind of show you where you'll land at the end of each month if you're kind of comparing your revenue, your expenses, the loan, payments, all that. So it's a really good tool to play around with numbers and see what maybe you would need to come up with to make it all work and make sense. So you can definitely try that tool out. I don't know if there's any other tools as well, but that's a good one to start with maybe.
Hi. What do you guys say are some of the best funding options if you've already put money into the business, but you're not open yet?
I'm sorry to ask a question to your question, but could you provide a little bit more information based on the business that it is? Is it a service base? Is it something a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's service-based. So like if we've already kind of started the process, but it's not fully ready to open yet. Does that answer your question, kind of?
More or less. So what I would say is when you look for funding, there's different products that really relate to different usages. So a prime example would be that if you were to get a line of credit, that would be used for working capital. It would be used to cover your cash flow deficiencies that you have in the beginning, or for growth and expansion later on down the road. If you're looking to acquire, let's say, equipment, you'd be looking for something more like a lease or a term loan. And then if you're looking for something more along the lines of actual space, as in purchasing a building to house your service, then you would be looking for something more like a business mortgage. So I guess the best way to answer that question is when you would have a sit down with any of us on the panel or a, let's say, business professional that would be in lending, they would ask you questions based on where you are today, where you want to go, how far along you are, and then what are the next steps that are necessary. I'm sure that they would echo what I'm about to say, is that certain credit products are used for certain things, and if they're not used in the right area, then it really will hinder your business in the long run. So I would always use the old adage of a professional is a professional for a reason. So I would ask them. So if I had, for instance, to go a little bit further to your point, if you already have the space leased and you already have the service that you know you need and you're ready to launch, but you're worried about covering wages or you're worried about the day-to-day operations, then possibly a line of credit would be what you're looking for. If, however, on the other hand, you have everything except for a place, and now you're looking to maybe purchase a place, rent one half, as well as operate out of the other half, well, then more along the lines of a mortgage would be what you're looking for.
Well, I think Rob made some great points about, I'm a big believer in that. You figure out what your needs are and what the right tool is to suit those needs. In general, though, I can tell you that half of the people who get the starter company funding from our office are in your situation where they've spent a bit of money but still haven't launched the business. That's a perfect time to be seeing us. So, and probably.
Yeah, so I mean, with what you're saying you're doing, I think any one of these programs could be a fit, right? So you definitely want to maybe have a conversation with each of us. With Futurepreneur, our funding is very flexible, so if you know you need some, but you're not entirely sure exactly what you need it for, so maybe it's a blend of inventory and kind of want to pay yourself a little bit to support your own personal monthly expenses, and maybe you have your first and last month's rent because you've got a space. These are all things you can use the Futurepreneur financing for. We find sometimes someone might apply and they want $45,000 from us, but it's clear that they're going to need $60,000 to actually get this thing up and running. So maybe then you'll be applying to Futurepreneur as well as First Ontario and getting a blend of different funds to kind of support you in the launch. So it really does depend on a lot of different factors. But I think it's possible you could be applying to any one of these programs, really. Yeah.
I think we have time for one last question, if there's anything from the audience. Wonderful.
Hello, I just have a question for Rob over here. How long can you get a mortgage for a business?
That's a good question. So in terms of getting a mortgage as a business mortgage, the furthest amortization that our credit union would be willing to work for would be typically 20 years. Extenuating circumstances might take it to 25 years. With that being said, a term mortgage that we would use would be at maximum 5 years term. At that point in time, then you would obviously renew and renegotiate that mortgage.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Just to add in, you've heard a lot of words being thrown around, working cash flow, break-even assessment. How many of you have a business background or have taken a business course? Okay. So I think to just sort of put in a few extra words on that topic, there's lots of resources to help you gain that business education without going through a formal program. What you're bringing to the table is subject matter expertise and that innovative idea. The financial and accounting and business terms, those are things that can be learned. So I think we're hearing from Sarah that Futurepreneur has a lot of resources and educational tools. Rely on your mentors if you're really feeling out of your depth, and I should know I come from a liberal arts background myself. Mohawk College does have an online continuing education course that's devoted to finance that helps you learn how to prepare a balance sheet, that lets you learn how to calculate your break-even point. And it's a small investment, but it will help prepare you, it will help show that you're invested in your business success, and it will also give you more confidence when you're pitching either on one of Surge's pitching competitions, or maybe one day you'll make it to Lions Lair here in Hamilton or Dragon's Den. It gives you confidence with that language. So without further ado, I'd like to give our panelists an enthusiastic round of applause. we do have a small token of appreciation that will be presented to you by one of our Surge volunteers.
So yeah, just want to thank our speakers who came out today, Rob, Jillian, Rob, and Sarah. We have gifts. Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much.
So yeah, once again, just thank you for everyone who came out, all the advice that was given today. It's good stuff.
I'll just say one more thing too. So yes, I hope everyone gained a lot of good information today and insights, and as we mentioned at the beginning, everyone will be able to hang around for a little bit if you have some individual questions. And one final plug for Surge, the pitch comp, again, don't forget, the applications are open, and the deadline to apply is March 8th. So today's February 8th, there is a 1-month window to apply, mohawkcollege.ca/surge pitch comp. Get your applications in, or if you just want to come out and watch, do so. Register. The registration is off of the same webpage. And in the meantime, if you have any questions on entrepreneurship and what you're doing, definitely reach out to Surge, okay? Thank you.